All right, folks are starting to roll in. All right, everybody. It's Greg Poole here at Bowjunky Media, bowjunkymedia.com. This is something that we've been doing a little bit frequently, and these are video slash podcast slash question and answers slash whatever we want to make them. And so, for those of you joining us today, you see who our guest is, but as usual, before we get started, we got to pay some bills. That's just the way it goes, man. Obviously, without these folks, yes, we'll be taking questions on what's in Levi's cup here in a moment. So, you know, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Levi wouldn't be able to do what he does without sponsors. Obviously, without these folks, yes, we'll be taking questions on what's in Levi's cup here in a moment. I don't know why I'm hearing me, but I think I'm hearing your microphone or somebody's, but anyway, we're good. So without these companies, we literally wouldn't be able to do what we do. None of us would. And so Bowjunky wouldn't be able to be possible without the support of AAE, Kafaru International, Aaron Snyder, and the folks over there at Kafaru, absolutely making the best packs in the game. Well, not right in this moment, they're not, because, yeah. PSC Archery, Bomar Archery, Martin Archery, Easton, Gas Bowstrings, First Light Camo, Feather Vision Lenses, Black Ruffle Coffee Company, Viking Tactics, and our friends over at Zeiss. All right, we got that out of the way. So today's guest, for those of you that have been paying attention to social media today, launched himself a new little tuning series called Bow Life Boot Camp. Pretty clever way to put that together. It's Levi Morgan. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Just probably doing the same thing everybody else is doing, sitting at home.
Right. Well, at least we have seen that you have been able to get out and do some shed hunting. I've been texting with Lee Lakoski. He's slashing and burning, doing the non-tournament archery celebrity thing right now. But for you, you know, something that we have discussed in the past is you don't necessarily get an off season like a Lee Lakoski will. So first and foremost, obviously it's great that the family's good and healthy, all of that. But let's talk about this right now. You generally right now at this time of the year are turning and burning. So what sort of mental adaptations have you had to make right now?
Yeah, I mean, this has been super weird for me because in 14 years, I've never had this much time off. You know, we were trying to figure out a 3-week span where I was even home for 3 weeks in a row in the last 14 years, and we couldn't really think of it. So it's definitely been weird, but I you know, obviously don't want to take away from how serious, you know, state our country's in or whatever, but I mean, I've honestly enjoyed the time at home with the family, and I mean, we're kind of prepared for this as far as we're not scared we're going to go hungry at the moment, you know, like some people might be right now, so I don't have that kind of stress on us. Obviously, the economy and all that, and it's kind of stressful not knowing what next month's going to bring in the month after that, but just the time at home has been nice. You know, I've been able to do some things and that I hadn't been able to do in years. Like
absolutely. Right. Well, and I mean, let's not be honest, and I definitely don't want to get into your private affairs too much, but I'm going to anyway. But I mean, it's not like you live in a condo where the landscaping's taken care of, you pay your monthly fee and your HOA, and you're good to go. You have, over the last, you know, 6-8 years, you have amassed some properties, some farms, and I would imagine, unless I missed you winning the lottery, despite what some of the rumors out there were, you did not actually win the lottery. So you didn't just go in there and write checks for all these properties. So talk with us a little bit about, you know, kind of what you and Sam have been dealing with as a, you know, and look, folks, let's be honest, this is a question for Levi and Samantha. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to most of us out there, but I want to hear, and I would imagine a lot of you want to hear kind of how this process worked. But, you know, when something like this starts happening and financial hardships become a topic of conversation for anybody, even for you. Kind of walk us through what you and Samantha have been dealing with as it pertains to having these properties, having the the entity that is the Morgan family situation, and kind of how you guys have gotten through that.
Yeah, it's it's always tough to be in debt at any time, even when business is going well and everything is normal and we can actually plan for tomorrow and next month. And we kind of set this up, and obviously neither of us come from money or anything like that, and we have really worked hard to try to plan for our future and invest in things that weren't going to lose value, like land, like the farm, and stuff like that. And obviously none of that is paid for yet, and so we are. It was obviously stressful, and I got like this humongous Boone and Crockett fly in my office somehow, but yeah, it was stressful for sure, because that's kind of what we poured everything into for the last couple of years, and really our whole life dream is right there, as far as materialistic things that we would love to hand down to our kids. And obviously in the big scheme of things, it's not the end of the world, but it is very important to us. If I don't get paid for a few months, we lose a lot. We're going to have to start picking and choosing what what we want to keep and what we want to let go. And so it's obviously very stressful, and it's hard to really, we go to the farm almost every day, and we just love it up there. But it's hard to fully enjoy it knowing that it's not yours yet, even though it's yours, it's not yours,
Sure.
But at the same time, we gotta look at the big picture, and we got a lot to be thankful for. And because if you let yourself, we could get spun out real quick and go crazy trying to think about what tomorrow's going to bring, but we really don't know, and so
right.
We just try to take it one day at a time and try to figure out ways to make yourself valuable and to make it through it just like anybody else.
Right. Well, and that's you bring up a great point. So let me ask this, and of course, as always, if I ask anything that you don't necessarily want to answer, you can just flip me the bird or tell me to pound sand or whatever. But he's like, sounds good. Finger it is. But anyway, so for someone in your position, and at Bowjunky, we're kind of in the same position as having a stable of sponsors or advertisers. You are paid, using Lee Lakoski as the unit of measure for this. Like right now, Matthews and all of his sponsors, not really expecting a whole lot from him this time of year because he's doing other things, preparing for farming and all that. Levi Morgan, on the other hand, right now you are compensated to be shooting and winning tournaments. So what sort of steps have you and Samantha taken to kind of modify what are your deliverables right now to, like you said, keep that value going and to keep your sponsors in the forefront in this tough time?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, years ago, before I really understood how things work in our industry and or any business for that matter, I would have probably been way more emotional about some of these things, but now I truly feel for a lot of these companies as well, that we're partnered with. And I want to be, part of the solution. I don't want to be the guy on the other end going, send me a check. I want to make myself truly valuable to these companies. I want to really help them because they're struggling right now just like we are. It's the same thing. It just keeps stepping down. Some of their doors are shut. They're not shipping product. Their retailers' doors are shut. So it's just a hard time. So we're having to get very creative. Just like this YouTube series, I felt like it was kind of a win-win for everything. For companies that we work with, for us, just to kind of get some really solid information out there. And I love the archery community, and it's something I've wanted to do this for a long time. But the problem is, like you said, I don't have any off time, and I'm out there actually in the trenches shooting tournaments and trying to perform all spring and summer and early fall, and so I really have never had the time to dig in and go in depth like this. So I am excited to do that and share some stuff with everybody, and really try to bring some more value to the companies that we work with, and try to show people why. I've never been the type of person that's going to shove products down your throat and be like infomercial stuff. But I want people to understand, there is, a reason that I work with some of these companies, and so I want that to come off in these videos. I want people to understand us a little better, and what it is that we do, and kind of, the information and the tools we've used to get here. So
Absolutely. And for those of you wondering, aspiring to be professional archers, aspiring to be television hunting celebrities or whatever, what Levi just did there was called a smooth transition. That's how a pro does it. So, following, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
no.
All right. So that was an extremely smooth transition. Levi's a pro, so for those of you that want to learn how to be interviewed and learn how to give interviews, watch what Levi just did there for like 2 minutes 100 times. So speaking of, let's talk about this Bow Life boot camp right now. For those of you wondering, that is hosted over on the Bow Life YouTube channel. You can just go to YouTube, type in Bow Life TV, bam, it'll pop right up. Make sure to subscribe to it, hit notifications that way. Like some other folks this morning, when Levi uploads something on YouTube, you'll get a notification right away, even if Levi wasn't necessarily ready for it. But so basically what I want to talk to you about is this, as it pertains to the Bow Life Boot Camp. There are 100 ways to skin a cat. We all know that. We've all gotten hundreds and thousands of questions on how to do this a particular thing, and there's a bunch of ways to do that thing. However, once you get to a certain level, obviously your unit of measure is probably a little bit higher than the rest of us because of your resume, but when you get to a certain level of tuning and shooting, a lot of similarities start to arise in how things are done. So what I wanted to talk to you about was this first video that you put out on Target Panic, and specifically not just the Target Panic side of it, but I wanted to actually put that into practical application for folks. If you've been watching Bowjunky for any amount of time, Levi has absolutely been 100% honest on a couple things. One, he carries 2 releases in his pouch, generally a hinge and generally a button. And if you ask him why, he's pretty honest about it. And so that in particular, as it pertains to the Target Panic side, is something that I'd kind of like you to explain. I know that it's jumping a little bit ahead of the lessons that you put out today, but I think that is an absolute perfect example and case in point of you practicing what you preach.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, I had Target Panic when I was young. I had it. We're in 2007. When I won my first pro tournament. I had it when I won several tournaments that year, and I've had it off and on. It's one of those things where if I don't really work at it, it'll come crawling back in my life. And so, but the good thing is I know how to beat it. I know how to fix it very fast now, where I feel like a lot of people are stuck and have no idea how to do that. But, that was one of the things I learned a long time ago, is that I didn't feel those feelings of right now with a hinge. So like in 2007, I've always shot a button very well. I've always scored way better with a button, and I shoot it so light that you can breathe on it, it'll fire, which is one of the big reasons why I have probably constantly had to fight this off for pretty much my whole career. So in 2007, I hadn't had Target Panic since I was a little kid, or felt any bad feelings, and I went to Harrisburg and shot that 40, 50, 60 round, or no, it was Pittsburgh maybe.
Well, it was in Atlantic City, but then it went to Pittsburgh as well. Now it's...
So I shot the 40, 50, 60 round in Pittsburgh, and I was like rolling, like shooting super good. Then I got to 60, and my pin would not sit on that little circle, and I was shooting that light thumb button, and it jumped on me, and like was the worst feeling in the world. I still remember what the room looked like whenever I jumped all over that thumb button that shot in the red. So then I was like, what am I going to do? I went to Augusta, Georgia. Come back, made the shoot off, won the tournament, and I punched all 5 arrows in the shoot off.
Wow.
Got in the car after I'd won, was on the way home, literally told Samantha, like, I did not enjoy that win at all. You know, that was terrible. So I said, I've got to figure it out. So then what I learned very quickly is when I would shoot my original round, like my qualifying round, with a button, because I didn't have those nerves until I got in a shoot-off situation. Right. And I would shoot with a button, and then when I got in a shoot-off, I would switch to a hinge. And man, I won so many tournaments doing that, just kind of outsmarting it, really. And I did that for so long, and I swore that. And so I went to Vegas. The first year I ever went to Vegas, I was shooting 30 X's at home with a button, same thing. I rolled into Vegas, practiced all the first couple days, no issues. First 2 ends of score, no issues. They blew the whistle. I pulled back my first arrow ever for score in Vegas. My pin went to the middle, and I'm telling you, I've never hit a trigger so fast in my entire life. And I literally threw my release into my pouch, dug my hinge out, and shot a 900. But that first arrow, I had to get a judge on my first arrow, and it got called in, and I shot a 900. And I swore that day I'd never shoot a button in Vegas again, ever. And so for years I shot a hinge in those situations when I'd get nervous. Well, a few years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to try it again. And I started shooting in ASA shoot-offs and felt nothing. And then this year in Vegas, I felt those feelings all over. And I hadn't felt them in years, and I started feeling that anxiety again. So I know what to do. I've been through it before. I already really fixed it. Went to a hinge, and in Foley, I shot a hinge. Man, by the end of that tournament, I was shooting like I shot back like 2010, 2011, 2012. My 3D shot was feeling like I was so excited for the year. Right. I was working hard. My shot was the best maybe it's ever been. I was excited to shoot again. I mean, we went to the practice range and shot for hours in Foley with David Chance and well, not Justin Hanna. He hates practicing, but the rest of us, we went to the practice range. And Mike Pollard, and I was enjoying shooting because I had no anxiety because I was shooting a hinge again, you know. So I've always kept both in my. That was probably a long answer to your question, but anyway, that was.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Felt like I had to go in depth there a little bit and explain myself.
Absolutely. Now, what made you decide that Target Panic would be the lead-in video for the new Bow Life boot camp?
Well, I feel like it's probably the most struggled with thing in archery. I feel like even people that don't think they have it. Right. You know, because there's so many different forms of it, and there's so many different types of target panic causes. You know, it's just the tiniest bit of anxiety that you don't even realize you have is target panic. You know, it may not be as extreme as somebody that can't even get in their peak before they fire the shot, but it's still target panic. And so,
right.
And until you learn all the different forms of it and all the ways to fix all those things, you're not going to be as good as you could be. And even if you don't have it now, one day when you're standing on the line and it really means something, and that monkey starts climbing up your leg,
right,
you're going to know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And so now, like last year in Vegas, everybody laughed at me because for my 90th arrow to shoot a 900, I was on the line, and I mean, if you've never shot Vegas, you just will not understand what you feel down there. I mean, it is. I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. You know, it is like the biggest amount of pressure that makes you want to run and throw up in the closest trash can, Donnie Thacker style, that you can find, you know. And so, I mean, it is just miserable. But so
Right.
that 90th arrow, which is the hardest arrow to shoot in archery, in my opinion, I'm standing there and I started shaking my legs, like kicking my legs, and I knew everybody was watching me, but I didn't care. I'd done anything at that moment to get that arrow in the middle.
Right.
And I pulled back, shot an arrow right in the middle, and afterwards everybody's like, "What were you doing?" I said, "I was kicking those demons off me. I was trying to crawl up my leg." Because I could feel it coming, and they were like, "What were you kicking down there?" I was like, "Y'all couldn't see it, but there was them little target panic demons coming running in on me, and I
Right.
was fighting them off the whole time." So, I
No,
mean, it's a real thing for sure, especially with a light thumb button for the 90th arrow in Vegas.
absolutely. So let's talk about the Bow Life Boot Camp real quick. How, you're starting off with 4 weeks on target panic, and look, your timing is impeccable. I mean, let's just be honest here. And the reason I asked about the target panic was if there was ever a better time to help people get over target panic, it's when they can't shoot for score. Just be honest. I mean, there is no better time. If you can't shoot for score, that's the best time to work on target panic, period. So you have 4 weeks of that going. What's the long-term prospectus for what the Bow Life Boot Camp looks like?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to launch a video every week, going forward. Maybe not during hunting season because I'm so not home ever in hunting season, but um, during tournament season when we're home, like from now to whenever, I plan on, launching videos every week. We want to move into really cool topics and not just do them to do them. I don't want to just talk about dumb stuff that everybody knows and whatnot. I really want to dig in and get more detailed. I've done videos in the past on the show, but it's so time crunched that it's like, how fast can we hit all the high spots just to kind of give people an idea
Sure.
how to do it. But we really want to dive in here, and like we're doing a 4 week um, series on target panic, which even that is to me is, I could go deeper. I could
Sure.
spend an entire year talking about target panic, but we're going to do that and then move on to everything in archery. Try to just cover it from tuning to form to aiming to all that stuff, and just release execution, um, mental side of it. And so really we just want to cover archery from top to bottom as best we can, go in depth and really give people some solid information that's been tested. There's a lot of information out there, but I mean it's not been tried and proven. I mean
Right.
proven information is a lot different than information.
Yeah,
So
no question about it. And I mean, here's something that I don't think, a lot of people necessarily apply to archery when it comes to what's in the cup, by the way.
it's coffee. It's actually half decaf because it's late and I have enough anxiety as it is. I don't need to be up till 3 in the morning.
All right, but you will be anyway. So
No problem.
so let's talk about the nuances of putting out instructional videos. Now, and I totally get what you're saying. Whenever I do one, I'm like, if you're here to learn how to tie in a peep or tie in a loop, you're at the wrong spot. There's a million other ones out there that'll show you how to do that. But what I wanted to ask you about specifically is, look, man, you are your resume speaks for itself. So explain to people the technical difficulties of getting into the coaching, not necessarily coaching, but the instructional side of things, when there are things that that you don't even know until you need to know it. And how you make videos, of this duration, there's going to be things you're not even going to remember you knew until you're actually talking about it. So how did you, for one, it's easy for someone who's putting out a video every 3 days, but for you, your wealth of knowledge and experience in the game, how do you weigh and measure what to actually talk about?
Uh, it's tough. I mean, we really got to break it down into what I feel like, not necessarily personally, I you go through, but what I hear a lot and what I see a lot, and then remembering back to when I dealt with that, honestly, most of the time I'm still dealing with it. I just have gotten very good at blocking it out,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
and I've gotten very good at subconsciously blocking things that everybody deals with in archery, and
Right.
whether that form, just really, it's a basic sport. I mean, you can get as in depth as you want, but it's always going back to the basics. And so I think we make it a lot harder than we need to sometimes. But that's really it for me. Is I just try to put myself in shoes, and before I knew how to deal with these things like target panic before, because that's a scary, scary thing. And just like most of these subjects are, when you feel helpless, like these feelings jump on you, or you're struggling with something, and you don't know how to fix it, and you don't know if you're ever going to fix it. I mean, I've been there, and it's scary. And once you figure it out, it's like the best feeling in the world. So that's what I want to do, is just really look at these topics and go, how did I deal with that? How did I learn that? And kind of use some real life analogies on how I came about with the information, rather than just this is the right way and that's just the way it is. So.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So let's start taking some questions here. Obviously, before we get started, everybody like and share this video, this live feed, so people can come join in, ask questions. We're going to get to as many questions as we can. I got Kathy over here on the other side of the room. What do you got?
Dan Schroeder.
Dan Schroeder asks,
where are you headed this fall and what are you hunting?
Where are you headed this fall and what are you hunting?
Well, that's a good question. If everything is normal and goes to plan, I'm going to Wyoming first and Montana for mule deer. Then I'm taking Samantha. Well, Lacrosse is taking Samantha, and I'm going with her to Utah to hunt elk, where I went last year. Then New Mexico for elk with Justin Hanna again. My buddy Gary Gallegos and Joe Apache down there, and then let me see. Then a bunch of whitetail stuff. Kansas and Ohio, Illinois, Texas, here at the farm, Pennsylvania,
right,
Mississippi. So a lot of stuff. I haven't really booked it. This is the first year I haven't booked like a major big like adventure hunt
right.
for the Super Slam yet, because I wanted to do grizzly again. I can't do that till next year, so it's kind of a laid back hunting season. I know it doesn't sound like it, but compared to the past, normally I'll start in somewhere crazy like Alaska or the Northwest Territories or the Arctic or Mexico, right, somewhere, in the mountains in a tent for 2 weeks. But this year I'm going to just kind of keep it mule deer, elk, and whitetail, I think.
Until someone calls, and then you're like, I'm on my way. Till someone calls, you're like, yep, I'm there. All right. Kathy, what else you got?
Sorry, caller.
Have you tried any of the World Archery Challenges that are going on now?
John who?
Tilley.
John Tilley asks if you've tried any of the other World Archery or otherwise challenges, shooting that, or going on around the internet right now.
No, I haven't done any of the challenges. I honestly haven't been on social media very much, so I really don't even know what challenges you're talking about.
There's a bunch.
I mean, that's where you like called out couples and stuff. That's pretty cool. I haven't done any of them. I really have just been staying off social media a lot here lately because it's just crazy on here.
Right.
And so I just get on here as little as possible, to be honest.
There you go. All right, babe, what do you got?
How is this lockdown affecting your turkey hunting schedule?
All right. How is this? I don't know who asked it, but how is the lockdown impacting your turkey hunting? Chester.
None. Our turkey season doesn't open until May 2nd, so I was actually out listening to them gobble right before we got on here. But yeah, our state's dumb, and they don't put turkey season until a month after it's really good. So, it hasn't affected my turkey season at all yet.
Not yet. All right, next. What do we got?
Let's see. What's your preference bow for hunting?
What is your preferred bow for hunting this season? That is, of course, until you have to shoot the blurred out Matthews ones, but
Well, the God's honest truth is I would give anything if I could hunt with my VXR again because I love that thing. And it's still set up just like I set it up last July whenever I got it. And so, but I'm probably, normally if things go the way they go every year, I'll get a new one, and you guys won't be able to see any of my pictures until, I don't know, November.
All right. Well, so that brings up a good point. With the companies, basically bow companies right now, for most being shut down, I'm wondering. That brings up a good question. This is a question from Greg Poole, faithful listener. Do you think that these delays are going to affect bow companies releasing 2020 models, or do you think because of the financial impact of this that they just might stick with what we got now and we might actually get a year off from basically what's going to amount to lipstick on a pig again, and maybe get a year for these companies to, put more into the next version?
Yeah, it's hard to say, man. I think they're probably all having that conversation right now, depending on how long this goes and how long it lasts. I mean, it may not even be an option.
Right.
So who knows? I mean, I'm sure that conversation is happening, and I have no idea if it is or where it is, but I feel like they have to be having that conversation. I put myself in their shoes.
Absolutely.
But honestly, I think, whatever they decide, I mean, all these companies have got great products out right now, so it's not going to be a big deal, I don't think, either way. I'm sure that it will affect, and it no question is affecting, all these companies financially and
right. Well, that's why I think. I mean, I have not literally thought about this until right now, Levi, but I almost think it would be better for the bow companies to just be able to take this year off as far as releasing a whole bunch of new products and new backdrops for booths. And I mean, you know as well as I do, some of these big companies spend $150,000, $200,000 in marketing propaganda when they release new bows. So this might be a good opportunity for that. All right, babe, what do you got?
Any advice for someone that's turkey hunting with a bow?
What sort of advice do you have for someone who is turkey hunting with a bow?
All right.
Hobbit.
This is something you better listen to. This is some proven advice for bow hunting turkeys. Take your bow, hang it up, get a shotgun, and go shoot one in the face. That's how I turkey hunt. I don't turkey hunt with a bow.
I was not expecting that answer either. That's pretty good.
That is my honest answer. I don't like bow hunting turkeys. But if I'm going to shoot them about that far out from where their legs meet the body, and you better focus small because you can hit them what you think is perfect, and it ain't nothing but feathers.
You don't want to shoot one of those broadheads that's like this big around out there and try to lop the old noggin right off?
Nah, I don't know why. It just doesn't do anything for me. I like, turkey hunting's about calling them in. It's about, outsmarting them. And once they get under 50 yards, I want to be able to watch their head smack their butt, and
right.
That'll be the end of it,
All right. Well, yeah. Eric, that probably wasn't the answer you were expecting, but he did actually say to shoot it in the right spot, which is pretty good. I was almost wondering if Levi was going to take the 3D turkey route and tell them, well, the 12's right here, and but you've certainly shot enough of those. What else you got, babe? Kevin Hawkins.
How much does poundage and holding weight affect your shot execution on a hinge?
When using a hinge, how much does the draw weight and holding weight affect your shot?
Well, it affects my shot a lot, but it also depends on what kind of shot you shoot. If it's static or if you're pulling real hard, because some bows you just can't get a lot of holding weight with, and if you shoot a hinge, you got to shoot them pretty static.
Right.
Here lately, I keep going up in my holding weight, and I'm loving it, going up a little at a time. I feel like it's more forgiving because I feel like that string gets going a lot quicker
Yep.
from the back end. So it really minimizes my movement after the arrow leaves, or after the string leaves my release. So I am really liking a little more holding weight right now because especially since I went back to a hinge, because I'm having to work through that hinge, and when you don't have anything up front really to pull against, when you're trying to work through a hinge, every movement you make back here is moving you up front too. So with a hinge, it makes a very big difference.
Sure. So that one other question that comes to my mind, seeing you do your little illustration there, which, by the way, these little video podcast things are pretty dope because now everyone gets to see us do this or do this or whatever. So now everybody actually gets to see that. So as it pertains to what you were just talking about, which is string tension in the entire system, I can't help but bring up the Bomar Archery nose button. That has got to be an incredibly useful tool when talking about this particular issue.
Yeah, for sure. That's been something that a lot of archers did before it was a thing. It was not a product. We would tie in soft knots and just anything we could do to try to micro anchor. Because I always had issues coming out of my peep, especially when I'm working through a shot. Maybe I'm aiming a little longer than I should, or I'm nervous. My head, I want to lift away from my peep. Some people want to go deeper. I want to lift away, and so that little product, man, has made a huge difference in me just staying in my peep and staying centered in my peep, because it's just instant feedback with that little spike on that thing on the tip of your nose. You can feel every change in your anchor with that. So it's been huge for me in a lot of different ways. I really like it. There's no downfall to it. There's literally no cons to shooting it. So, yeah.
So what would you say? And I know that I've heard a lot of these questions because of my shoulder. I've not actually been able to play with one yet. Well, I've played with them, just not on a bow, which doesn't really count. But what do you say? I know what I say when people ask me. Like all the people, I'd be like, well, Levi Morgan's a world champion like 50 times over. Is it really helping him? And my response to it is anything that makes any archer more consistent helps them regardless of how good they are. So for you, what would you say to people that would ask you that same question? You literally can make a chandelier out of your belt buckles. You have enough, world championships to, it's incredible. So, I understand the question. But how do you generally address it when people say, at your level, Levi, how much did it really help?
Yeah, I think people don't understand how much a lot of us fight to become better still. And just knowing how many tournaments I've lost by 1 point, honestly, I have been very blessed to accomplish a lot of things in this sport. But the ones I remember most are the ones I lost by 1 point, and the titles I lost just barely, thinking if I had just one little thing that would have got me a 32nd of an inch on that arrow that I remember. And just I remember coming out of my peep on that shot and shooting an 8 right with a perfect number, and if just things like that my mind always goes to. So it's a curse a little bit for me, always trying to find something that's going to make me a little better. But I think that's what we should all be doing. If this is what we're trying to do, and this is our job, we should treat it that way. And so that's what I'm doing. You see little things like that I try. It's because I feel like it might give me even 1 point at a tournament. Maybe it's one arrow that it's going to help me on. Because maybe I would never come out of my peep 99 shots out of 100. but that one that I did might cost me the win.
Sure.
And which could cost me shooter of the year, which could cost. I mean, once you lose a couple things by 1 point, you start realizing the weight of every arrow that you shoot, and so that would be my answer.
Yeah, I mean it's a great answer. I don't have your resume, so I don't never even thought of that. Let's just be honest with it. But when when you're shooting against Danny McCarthy and Jesse Broadwater, those kinds of guys, yeah, dude, 1 point is absolutely massive. And I can literally remember you finishing a tournament on the podium, not in first, and literally turning to me and telling me the shot in the tournament that you believe cost you that win. And that's an absolutely perfect answer right there. All right, babe, what do you got?
Every time I've ever drove home that I didn't win, I was thinking about the reasons why I didn't win on the way home and what I could have done better. So.
Right. All right, babe, what do you got?
Willie Townsell.
Willie Townsell?
How many more animals do you need to finish the Super Slam?
How many more animals do you need to finish that Super Slam?
Well, I need a Rocky Mountain Bighorn. I got 3 of the 4 sheep. I need several bears. I need so let's count them. Rocky Mountain Bighorn. I need brown bear, polar bear, grizzly bear with a bow. I got a grizzly, but it got shot with a rifle after I shot it with a bow because I'm terrible at judging yardage. And I need a Sitka blacktail, a Shiras moose, and a Thule elk.
7.
7.
So you're gonna be hunting in Northern California for elk when you can.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be hunting for bears pretty much all over the globe when you can. And so what sort of, this is not asked, good question, Willie, but this is from me, but what sort of time frame do you put on that at all, or do you just want to get it done before you're done?
Yeah, when I first started this whole Super Slam thing, the youngest to ever do it with a bow was 40, and the youngest to ever do it, period, with a rifle or any weapon was 33. So when I started this several years ago, I said, I want to be the youngest to ever do it. I want to do it with a bow, and I want to do it all on film. Well, I got about halfway through it, and I was doing like 6 to 7 different species a year those first couple of years. I met this kid named Lincoln Tapp, who was like 16 and had just as many animals as me and showed no signs of slowing down. And I was like, nah, I ain't going to kill myself
right.
just to own this record for a week. You know what I'm saying? So I just said, you know what, I want to do it. It's still a goal of mine, but I was sacrificing a lot of time with my family. I was just like not enjoying myself. And so I just said, I'm going to do it, but I want to do it, in a reasonable, time span, and I want to enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. And so that's what my plan now is. I still want to do it, and
nice.
I don't want to be 70 when I finish it, and I may never finish it, but I'm going to keep chipping away at it. Absolutely. It's not cheap on those hunts either, and I'm not single, so I'll just leave it at that.
No, those hunts are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. All right, babe, what do you got?
Bob Brown.
Bob Brown.
Shooting a button gives you target panic, and you shoot a hinge so well, why mess with the button?
So he says if you shoot the button so well, was it the button or the hinge?
If the button gives them target panic.
Okay, if the button gives you target panic and the hinge doesn't, why not just shoot just a hinge, basically?
I feel like I score better with a button. So, because obviously with the hinge, there's a lot more movement back here, a lot more things going on, and I just feel like I my line with a hinge is probably like that in a 40 target round, where my line with a button is like that. And so I feel like I'd probably shoot a higher score if I'm shooting a button well. And that's why I have trouble just setting it down for good. I always pick it up, and I'm like, holy smokes, I'll shoot 5 arrows in a circle that big at 50 yards and just be like, all right, we're rolling the button this weekend. And then I'm stuck with it for 3 months, and then I go back to a hinge. So I think it's good to go back and forth. For me it is anyway, because my subconscious starts timing everything. and
Right.
I'll start, even with a hinge, I'll start freezing on it because I know it's about to fire if I'm not sitting dead still. And so at that point, I'll switch to a button and shoot it for a couple weeks until I forget what my hinge felt like, and then I'll go back. I mean, for me, it's good to switch back and forth, keeps me focused on everything but when my release is about to fire.
Sure. Now, I'm not checking the messages or questions, but someone had damn well better have asked this, so I'll ask it right now. Click or no click?
Click. I shoot a click. I've tried to not shoot a click, and it's the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I'll never do it. Never.
Even after watching how good David Hauser's been doing this year with one.
Yeah, he was doing good indoors with it. Ask him about that outside.
Oh, what now?
Ask him about that click outside.
Oh, so
You're gonna need it.
so if I'm reading between the lines, Mr. Morgan is saying that the four-finger no click is great indoors when everything is a controlled situation, but when you get outside and you're shooting longer distances, maybe in some wind and changing everything else, that the no click's not working out so great.
Yeah, I mean, look. That's chances. Chance shoots at no click, four finger.
Right.
I could watch a whole series on Netflix for the time it takes him to fire a shot.
Right.
Which I cannot do. And David has never been that way, but man, this year indoors, holy smokes! I was like, he has found it. Like he is rolling like insane, shooting insane. And we went to outdoors and went to Foley, and we shot together for hours down there on the practice range room. We all stayed together, and so he obviously voiced that he wasn't sure that it was working outside. It didn't feel the same, and so obviously we hadn't shot together since. I talked to him quite a bit, but not about bow stuff normally. So I don't know where he's at with it now. He might be shooting, a wrist rocket. I don't know.
Right. Well, and that's true, and that was one thing that I was really, believe it or not, I was super excited for David the way he shot this year. David is a great kid. David Hauser, Hoyt Pro over there, great kid. And the way he shot indoors this year was plumb scary. And so I was telling lots of people, if David Hauser can transition what he's doing indoors to what he's doing outdoors effectively, some people are going to be in trouble.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully he can figure that out. Hopefully, we wish David the best of luck either way. All right, babe. What do you got?
No question, he'll figure it out.
Yep.
Bob Shelton.
Bob Shelton.
As aiming drills go, do you recommend one where you hold until the shot begins to break down and let down?
Holding drills. He wants to know about holding drills, and do you have one or recommend one that is basically testing the length of your shot where you aim and aim and aim until the shot starts to break down?
Yeah, I've talked about it a couple times where I'll take several different size dots, maybe depending on how well you can hold, start with a circle that you can, if you got 20 yards or whatever, that you can comfortably aim in. Your pin doesn't leave when you're in the sweet spot of your shot. And so I would say to draw back and aim in that circle, and when your shot starts to break down and your pin movement starts to leave that circle, let down, start over, regroup, do it over again. And before long, you'll be able to aim in that. Your window is going to get bigger by doing that, longer, that you can aim in the middle. And then you just step down dots, and you just keep stepping down dots because aiming is really, yes, some's physical, but a lot of it is your focus. A lot of people have trouble focusing on a small spot. And so you aim as big as your focus is. Just like we go to Reading and we can shoot at a dot this big around, and my pin's going to use the entire dot because that's what I'm focused on. Or we go to a dot that big, and my pin's going to use that dot. So, it really trains people to focus smaller, but you have to start somewhere. If you just throw a little dot up there and say aim in that, it's going to be like it's impossible. Right. But down slowly, their window gets bigger for how long they can aim in the middle, and their movement gets smaller too.
Now, do you use, this wasn't part of his question, but just to expand, do you use a drill like that to do any tuning at all, as far as stabilizer tuning, draw length tuning, etc.?
For sure. And indoors is always a learning curve every year, for me, because I'll screw on weights and screw off weights for 3 weeks, and I mean my wrist will be sore from putting weights on and off my stabilizers, doing that. And by the end of indoor season, I feel like I got a pretty good hold on what's feeling good on those bows that year, and what I need to be rolling weight wise. So
there you go. All right, babe, what do you got?
Miranda
Crowell. Miranda Crowell.
She says, I've been practicing a lot since we've been on lockdown. Her shots are feeling good. When I tend to get tired, it seems like my hinge release takes longer to go up. Any
Okay,
suggestions on what to do?
so she's saying that since the shutdown, she's been practicing more and more, but when she gets tired, her hinge tends to take longer to go off.
yeah.
What could you suggest?
Well, that would be something my dad would probably suggest, and that'd be shoot one arrow at a time, make it count. It's easy to go out and shoot arrow after arrow after arrow and 10 arrows in your quiver and only make 2 good shots because you got another one in there to follow it up with.
Right.
So for me, whenever, that was one thing my dad used to make me do all the time, and I'd never understood it, and it was very frustrating as a kid, shoot at 50 yards and have to shoot one arrow, and you only let you shoot one, and you have to walk down and get it, come back. But I'll tell you one thing, you'll learn how to let down and start over when you only got one arrow to shoot per in, and you learn how to make it count.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kathy, what do you got?
Dave Budin.
Dave Budin.
What is Levi's comfort zone while hunting with a bow?
I'm assuming he means yardage. So I think he was asking, what's your comfort zone for shooting with a bow when you're hunting? You want me to start?
That's a good question, man, because I feel the problem is I feel more comfortable when I'm hunting than I do when I'm practicing. Like I get this weird confidence when I'm hunting. Like I can see an animal at 120 yards and go, oh man, I can kill it right there. And I my comfort zone, I am like out to 80 yards. I am super comfortable hunting. Unless there's a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind, I feel great. And honestly, I feel pretty confident to 100, and I mean even further. But so many things can happen. The situation's got to be perfect. I'm not trying to tell everybody to go shoot at an animal at 120 yards, but I haven't taken many shots I was super uncomfortable with. I'll just put it that way.
Right. Well, and this is one thing that I can go back to, and a lot of people will ask this question, and I will literally, if I was to ask Levi Morgan what has made him the GOAT of unknown 3D archery, he wouldn't say his shooting, and he probably wouldn't say his judging yardage. He would say course management. And course management comes down to nothing more than situational awareness. So whether Levi is shooting a 52-yard Havy or a 110-yard mule deer, even myself, anybody out there who hunts and takes these kinds of shots, it's all about situational awareness. You heard Levi say, well, unless there's 30-mile-an-hour winds, or he's not going to take a Texas heart shot at 140, and if you don't know what Texas heart shot is, Google it. And so basically, situational awareness is everything. And it doesn't matter if it's 15 yards or 115 yards. And that's where guys like Levi have excelled, is his ability to shoot certainly makes him more lethal when he decides to. But what's between his ears when it comes to situational awareness, whether it's on a 3D course or hunting, that pretty much is what separates the two. Wouldn't you say, Levi?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's been lots of times I've drew back, and when I visually look at the situation, I feel like I'm good, and then I'll draw back and realize that this ain't gonna work, So yeah, I think it's just an instinct from doing it since I could walk, and 3D archery's really made me a better hunter. Obviously, like because it's the same situations and I know my limits.
Right.
As far as how well you can shoot in certain situations, from that be your heart rate to your pin movement to the wind to a downpour to whatever it might be. So knowing your equipment's super important, but knowing your limitations is also very important. So,
Absolutely, and that's the thing I always tell everybody is, when they start talking about a long shot, I'm like, I don't care if the shot's 15 yards or 110 yards. The situation has to be right. Period. Doesn't matter who you are. All right, babe, what do you got?
Chuck Henze.
Chuck Henze.
You shoot your thumb release using back tension or shoot it more like a hinge?
He wants to know if when you're shooting your thumb button, are you shooting it more like a hinge using true back tension, or are you using your thumb for a little bit more of that activation?
I've shot it both ways. I normally have just used my thumb, like almost every tournament I've ever won with thumb button, I've used just my thumb. Recently, I was talking a lot with Joel Turner, who has shot IQ, and he had me trying to shoot it where I would pull back, put the barrel here, and relax into the barrel, so it's a lot easier on your mind, not as much anxiety build up. And I shot that way in Lancaster this year and shot pretty well, but it was so new to me then. I had only been doing it for 2 days when I went to Lancaster. I mean, I qualified good. I was only 4 down qualifying. But then I got into matches and I really didn't trust it. And I have a problem with trusting things that I haven't done my entire life, because I've been doing this for so long that I feel like I know how to shoot a thumb button. I'm like, this feels terrible because I've never done it, but it's a very good way to shoot a thumb button. The problem is I have trust issues. That's the problem.
Well, and I mean, unless something's changed with him, which he doesn't change much whatsoever, and that's Chance Bobeth. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think he's changed, but back in the day, he basically explained that when he's shooting that 4-finger, he's actually mildly relaxing his index finger. Yep, Chance is relaxing that index finger real slow as he's aiming for 108 minutes until the shot just breaks. And I'm just going to tell you this, folks, right now. Hear me later on. Believe me later. If you, after this live feed, if you jam to the practice range or your garage and you draw back with that hinge and you want to try the Chance Bobeth relax the index finger move, you better be on target. You better, hold on. You better be on target, because that thing is gone. And I mean gone. You can't even really watch Chance's hand and see it move. But he is literally relaxing that index finger to get that, just to let that release slide on back and fire. So, but Chance doesn't have an aggressive shot like you shoot. So as you're describing this, I'm like, man, that would take you a lot of work to actually get used to that.
Oh, it was like, and it was scary, man. It was scary how well I shot with it, to be honest, doing that. And I think, and I got in those matches. I won my first match, and then I was up against Mikey, and I just didn't trust it. I didn't trust anything because I had been in the situation, the nerves hit, and I wanted, everything in me wanted to go back to how I've always shot my button. Put the pin in the middle, start adding pressure, boom. That's the way it goes. Because I had to wait, shooting it, relaxing. I had to put my pin in the middle and just go, I don't know when this is going to fire.
Right.
And so that was just, I didn't trust it, and I went back to doing a kind of a version in between both, and it was a train wreck, and so that really was, honestly, a lot of my anxiety, I feel like, in Vegas came because of me trying to incorporate something so new in a tournament situation like that. It's not the time to be testing,
right,
a new way to execute. I should have been working on that for months before that. But you live and learn, and now I'm shooting my hinge.
Right. Well, and it's like you said in your in the Bow Life Bootcamp video that dropped today, is nobody just sits in the middle and just lets it sit there forever until the shot breaks. But if there was to be one person that you would say comes the closest to doing that, it's Chance. So,
no question.
So for Chance, yeah, he can put his dot in the middle and let it sit there for 10, 12, 14 seconds while he relaxes back here, relaxes this finger, and then the shot just breaks. Chance can do that. I don't think I'm not aware of anybody that would even say, not Jesse Broadwater, not nobody, that says they hold as steady as Chance. Do you?
No, I mean Chance is like a 1 in a billion type of
Right.
mind. Just he's a freak, man, when it comes to his mind. Like I don't even understand what's going on in there. I don't. I even asked him because he came to my house. He comes here all the time. We shoot together a lot. And I'm like, hey, man, what do you think about when you're aiming? And he's like, huh? And I'm like, oh, I can tell you a million things I think when I aim, And he's like, looks at me like I'm stupid. Like, why are you thinking while you're aiming, And I'm just like,
right.
Wow. Like, I mean, he just looks like he's just like not even present, He's just like 30 minutes later, he's still standing in the same spot, I'm like, that ain't me. That'll never be me. My mind, I got too many squirrel moments. I'm like,
right.
Oh, where's the clock at? Oh, those curtains are blowing. Oh, yeah. This guy beside me just punched his release. I could tell because he didn't follow through. And I'm just like, I can't think about,
Right.
I just need to shut my mind off. So.
Right. Well, and let's be honest. Chance is also the kid. He was a kid when he did this. When he had target panic, he was telling me the story that he actually went to tournaments when he had target panic with one arrow. And Chance literally paid his money, went out on the 3D course with his one arrow, judged, came to full draw and aimed, and then just let down and put the arrow back in his quiver and took a 0 on every single target. And that was one of the ways he got over his target panic. So when it comes to mental toughness, yeah, dude, Chance is
well, he set his release so heavy it wouldn't fire.
Right.
And he would just pull back, work through his release, and just aim and work through his release until he couldn't aim anymore. I mean, because I think he had target panic, a terrible kind of target panic, just, and so he went extreme with it and hated the way it felt so much that he decided he was going to emotionally shut down from the rest of the world forever, and now his brain doesn't work. So,
right, dude, it's true. All right, babe, what do you got? Christopher Brown.
What are Levi's thoughts on blade versus drop away rests for 3D?
All right, he wants to know your thoughts for 3D archery. He specified for 3D archery. Blade rest versus fall away.
I have never shot a fall away rest for competition once in Reading, and it shot well. I shot a Q80, but I'm a blade guy, man. I just have shot it for so long. And I'm a big advocate of the less that can go wrong, the better. I like a simple setup that has the adjustments I need, and once I lock it in place, I don't have to worry about if I got the tension right or if it's going to drop or if it gets stuck up or limb driven or cable driven or just, I think you can really spin yourself out trying to figure all that out. So I like a blade. I like simple. It works. There's no reason for me to change it. So
absolutely. All right, babe.
Please,
Kevin Hawkins.
Please explain what a static shot is.
He says, please explain what a static shot is.
So the way what I call a static shot is when you don't have a lot of holding weight, or even if you do, you're not pushing or pulling to execute that shot. So with the hinge, you would just be sitting, just enough tension on the bow to keep it against the wall, and you would really just be rolling your fingers with a hinge instead of pulling into it, which is really how I like to fire a hinge, but I probably pull. I wouldn't say I'm static. And with any other thing, you're just holding enough pressure to keep it at full draw, and you're executing with your fingers, with movements in your thumb or your index, or just rotating the hinge. And that's the difference in a real static, relaxed shot as somebody that's really pushing against the bow and pulling against the back wall and firing it that way. It's when you see a more explosive archer that just explodes away from the arrow, you know that they're not shooting a real static shot. Guys like Jacob Marlowe, they shoot chance is very static. You don't see this big explosion. I mean, Marlowe does the Henry Bass onion all the time, but I don't know why. But he shoots a pretty relaxed, static shot.
Absolutely. And, so just to add to that, so there's basically 3 weights that come into play. You have your draw weight, your holding weight, and your execution weight. If your holding weight is 15 pounds and you are literally at the back of the bow and you've loaded your body tension and you're at about 16 pounds, it's a pound over your holding weight, so the bow's not going to pull you forward, but you're also not putting an incredible amount of tension on that. You take someone like a Roger Willett, if his holding weight was 15 pounds, his execution weight would be 30 pounds because he's literally wanting to pull the limbs off the bow. So like Levi said, a static shot is where you are a incremental weight above what your holding weight is, but you're not increasing that, and it's not incredibly more than your actually holding weight is. All right, babe, what do you got? John Strand.
What method do you use shooting your button?
What method do you use shooting your button? I think you've kind of explained this a little bit already, but just give them a real quick overview there while Kathy queues up another question.
Well, I mean, I am more of the just add pressure guy. I'm not saying that's the better way to do it. That's just the way I've done it my entire life. Like I said, I have recently tried to go to the more, making kind of a wrap around and relaxing the release into my hand so that it's more of a surprise kind of shot, I guess. But I would have to say I shoot more of just add pressure with my thumb type of shot because that's just the way I've always done it.
Right. So just to expand on that a little bit, this thought did enter my head. On a percentage basis, if you were, I'll just throw out a number just for a number. Let's say that your execution weight is 22 pounds. So your front is loaded, your back is loaded. What percentage of your load would you say is happening on what people would consider back tension?
Oh, not much, man. I don't shoot a lot of back tension at all. I shoot high holding weight, which forces me to be pretty aggressive.
Right.
I shoot like 21 pounds of holding weight, so it forces me to be aggressive. But I try to keep a very even amount of pressure on my bow arm and my release arm.
Okay.
When I work through the release, so it's not like hold my bow up and pull to execute. I have tried that. It used to work great. I feel like when back tension was kind of a thing, it was when we had really spongy cams and there was no real wall on our bows way back in the day, and so you had to kind of pull through that valley and you had some give. But these new bows now with the draw stops, like now,
right.
There is no sponge. So when you pull here, something's got to move, so
right.
I feel like for me, I shoot a lot of weight to keep me, very tight.
Right.
And then I execute through the shot and try to literally, I don't try to add a lot of pressure. I try to keep an even amount of pressure through my shot. And so that's kind of hard to explain.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely. Well, and what Levi just said about the cams is huge. I mean, back when we were all shooting the Apex 8 and stuff, yeah, those didn't necessarily have the greatest wall on the back, but it had a pretty workable wall on the back. What do you got? Tom Reimer.
Do you still shoot one arrow when practicing for outdoors?
Do you still shoot one arrow when practicing for outdoors? I'm assuming he means 3D, or did he specify? All right, he didn't specify. So basically, when you're practicing outdoors, do you shoot one arrow at a time?
Sometimes I do, for sure. If I'm shooting my range, like my 3D course, 100% one arrow at a time. Shooting bags, warming up. It all depends on what you're trying to do. If I'm warming up, like, I'll shoot a lot of arrows, because it's not necessarily about me trying to get better at something. I'm just trying to get my muscles warm.
Right.
But you don't shoot one arrow at a time as much as I should, but I still do it quite a bit.
Right. All right. What do you got? Kathy. Okay. She's scrolling, folks.
What
He's
length
gonna smack you.
recommend on your front and rear stabilizers for your hunting bow?
All right. Who asked that?
Rob Gerald's.
Rob Gerald's. He basically asked, what is your stabilizer setup for your hunting bow?
Okay, so this year it changes every year just because I feel like every setup needs something a little different. But the VXR I shot this year with a 15-inch front bar with like I think 4 or 5 ounces on the front and a 10-inch back bar with 12. So that was kind of what I ran this year. I had my front bar on a 10-degree down angle. So that's what I ran.
So let me ask this. Obviously, stabilizers are kind of important. What's up, Landon?
Hey.
What's up, buddy? Hey, Sam. How are you? Everybody say hi to the Morgans. Sam, you need to duck down so we can see your face.
Say hi, Jax.
Hey, it's the Morgan family, everybody.
Cold for about an hour.
He what now?
I said his dinner's been cold for about an hour.
Well, Levi said he was ordering social distancing, non-contact pizza for everybody.
Oh, believe me, it's takeout.
What? I made dinner.
Oh, you did?
What?
Man, I'm in trouble now.
Is this not the best Bowjunky live feed you guys have ever seen, or what? Like, seriously, this is real life Morgan style. All right, Sam, since you're in on this thing, no,
What?
Oh, come on, you're in on this now. You're in on this now.
I have to watch Jax. What is it? What's up?
Okay, you're right. He might actually burn the house down. So yeah, you're right.
That's very possible.
All right, thanks, Sam. See ya.
Okay. Hurry.
That's the greatest thing ever. All right, so back to stabilizers real quick. Obviously, I did see you for a brief amount of time, but the question that I'm going to ask has to do with the trend of 20 to 30 ounces out on the front, and all that. Now, the long bars, you don't really see anybody winning with anything over 30 inches these days, but guys like mainly you and Jesse Broadwater run similar styles of stabilizers for tournaments. Not 30 ounces out front or any of that. You and Jesse seem to be the only guys that have kind of, I mean, I think you tried it for a year or a day or two, but it just didn't fit either of you, and both of you guys are pretty much back to what you dominated with forever. So I don't know why you actually changed to begin with, but give us your thoughts. right? Give us your thoughts on, because you were really involved in that wave of stabilization, 10, 11 years ago. And so give us your thoughts on the trend of massive amount of weights on there now.
Yeah, I think, that definitely worked for some people. You look at guys like Mikey and Stefan and Chris Perkins, and I mean, they're running a ton of weight on the front. But in Rio, you look at those guys, they all lean back. And I feel like they are countering everything with that weight. And obviously, if you can shoot that kind of weight, it doesn't move as much, especially when you get nervous, shooting in the wind, things like that. It's ideal if you can shoot that much weight. But at the same time, I feel like all of them are leaning to pull against that weight. And, I mean, I just named 4 of the best shooters under pressure by far in the entire world. And they all shoot that weight. So I feel like that's kind of why I've went to that and tried it so many times. And every year I feel like I go back and go, there's got to be something to it. It just does not fit my shot. I would have to change my form. I would have to change everything to fit that weight.
Right.
So I feel like it's very personalized to their form and maybe the way they've always shot. And so I have to, I'm like a 3-4 ounces on the front of a 30-inch bar kind of guy, in 3D especially. Indoors I'll shoot maybe 8 at the most. But man, I just cannot I can't keep that kind of weight up in the middle. I can, but then that one that gets away from me
Bad.
ain't good.
All right.
It's like
Couple more questions, then we'll let you go microwave your dinner. All right, babe, what do you got? Couple more, then we're out.
Do you set up your hunting bow with more holding weight as your target bow?
Do you set up your hunting bow with the similar, more or less holding weight than your tournament bow?
No, it's two completely different, feels. My hunting bow, I want with as much or as little holding weight as possible. I want a ton of let off. For one, I find myself a lot of times in hunt situations being at full draw a lot longer than I want to be, and so I can't hold my tournament bow back very long because I've got so much holding weight. So, I never know when an elk's going to come in. I'm going to pull back and it's going to, stop behind a bush, and I got to hold it for 2 minutes before it takes another step. So that's why I shoot a lot less holding weight on my hunting bow.
Absolutely. All right, last question.
Travis Shaw.
Travis Shaw.
Accuracy-wise, do you think the newer bows are more accurate than, say, 10-year-old models, or is?
So he wants to know if you think that new bows are any more accurate than the bows from 10 years ago.
I don't know. I think they're easier to shoot. They're easier to be accurate with.
Good answer.
In one way. But you know what? I mean, I shot so many good scores with the Apex and the C4 but man, there is no question that these new bows are better bows to me. Which it doesn't make sense to me why I don't shoot better scores. But they're way easier to shoot, man. I picked up my Apex the other day and pulled it back, and I was like, like how did I ever shoot that thing,
Right.
But it's kind of what you get used to. And at the time, it was, top of the line. It was, the greatest bow out. And
right.
It's the same, we're talking about the TRX, or I am. And in 20 years, we'll probably be saying the same thing about that. Who knows? But
right.
Not to be any more accurate, but I just think they're easier to shoot accurately with.
No question. Kathy's over there waving her arms. I guess we got one more. All right, last one. I promise.
Joe May.
Joe May.
How does one sit dead still?
Oh. Joe wants to know, how does one sit dead still?
I
wouldn't know either.
Yeah, that's a good question. If I figure that out, I'll let you know. I can only do that certain arrows at home, so
right.
Who knows?
Right. Well, and I mean, it's, you have to, we all can get it to park in the middle for a second or two, but that's usually not when the shot fires. But when it does, it gives you that euphoric, feeling.
Oh, man. But you know what's funny is sometimes I feel like I shoot better groups if I have a little bit of a wiggle than if my pin will come and park.
Because it freaks you out.
I feel like I shoot a lot of edgy shots if my pin is parking and it's just like not moving. Because I feel like what it does is when it parks like that and you start executing, the first little bit of movement in your pin actually fires the shot. The movement in your bow fires it. And so I like a little wiggle. I can just work through it and not worry about it.
There you go. All right, man. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do this again, man. This was a good time. I really appreciate you taking the time. Sorry that your dinner's cold, but let everybody out there know where they can keep up with Levi on the interweb and his worldwide adventures.
Yeah, most everything I do is on BowLife_Levi on Instagram, and then BowLife TV on Facebook, and then now obviously a YouTube channel that we've had forever, but we're just now really starting to dive in and do work on BowLife TV on YouTube. And then if you want to watch what goes on in like our everyday life with our family and how crazy our kids are, you follow Samantha Jo Morgan on Instagram. So that's kind of our dynamic. That she does our real life stuff.
There you go. And so last question from me. I saw Landon making some of them trick shots finally. My question is, how many times did Dad try?
Several, and I have not made it yet. So my pride is a little hurt. My 7-year-old is quite the little athlete. So.
There you go. All right, Levi. I appreciate the time, brother. We'll do it again real soon. You guys have a great night. All right, everybody. That's Levi Morgan right there. He is a friend of the program. He is one of the ambassadors of our sport, both the hunting side and the target side. Be sure to like and share this live feed so everybody can tune in. If you guys want us to do this again, we will certainly do so. It probably won't be tomorrow. However, Levi is a wealth of knowledge and could certainly have a lot to offer in formats like this. One shameless plug here: I am doing one of these question and answers again live on Wednesday with Danny McCarthy. So stay tuned for the promotional one from that. That should be pretty entertaining. Danny is a character, and if you ever get a chance to see Danny cut loose and let her rip, he's a really funny guy. But we appreciate Levi coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If there's more questions for Levi or any format questions, as far as if you want me to bring somebody on and do this kind of thing again, by all means let us know. But that's going to be it for this live feed today, everybody. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We want to hear from you, not about you. And as always, love, peace, and chicken grease.